Okie dokie, what is up? Let me get this centered so I'm in the middle of the camera. Is that centered? Kinda, sorta. There we go. It's always difficult with this iPad that I've been using lately for these videos. It's always difficult to get this properly centered and everything, but I do my best, and typically I think I do okay. Anyway, everyone, let me do a quick audio test here. Make sure that everyone can hear me. Make sure there's no problems with the video, no problems with the sound and all of that. Let's do that right now. So if you're watching the recorded version, please bear with me as per usual, while I just double check that there's no technological issues per se. Hello, live people who just joined on. I see a couple of you there, or one of you rather. Give me a moment. My phone is not working, which is a problem. Here we go. Now it's working. How do I go to my channel? Here we go. How's this working here? Yes, it is working. Perfect. Good. Audio is fine. Well, everyone, welcome to episode number 1616 of Azren's Journal. For those of you who are new to this whole segment here, this is the segment on my YouTube channel where I share a whole bunch of different language learning tips, and of course I share my personal language learning journey. Let's kick things off today with a little bit of a personal update. As you guys know, my laptop was stolen recently along with a few other things. I've talked about it various times. Still no laptop, still haven't gotten anything back. I've ordered the new laptop, but it has not yet arrived. So I'm hoping that comes in soon. But for the time being, we have these live streams. We have the iPad. We can still make videos, which is obviously a very, very positive thing, and I'm very happy about it. Now, I want to talk about these neural connections today. This is a major one, a big one. For people, if you want to maximize the speed at which you are learning whatever language you're trying to learn right now, the biggest thing that you absolutely have to do, or one of the biggest things, is you have to make sure that you're studying and practicing and learning the language in a way where you are making as many connections in your brain and as many neural connections as you possibly can. So let me give you an example here. As you know, I am currently studying Mandarin and I'm currently studying Gujarati. Those are the two languages I am learning. When I've been learning my Gujarati lately, the biggest thing that is lacking is I'm not making enough neural connections. I'm just not. And that's because of how I'm currently studying. Right now I'm taking some online classes, and I'm currently typing and writing and translating a story into Gujarati. When I was first doing this, it was working really well. I was excited. The translating exercise was really beneficial for me, and because I'm translating a fairy tale that I know very well in English, it was easy for me to make a connection and remember all the new words that I was learning through the story. Because I was like, oh, I'm actually translating Goldilocks and the Three Bears. And I was like, oh, I know that story. I know every word in that story inside and out. I have that story like literally burned into my memory. And so if I learn the words in Gujarati that exist in this English story, there's going to be a very strong connection in my brain to those words, and I'm going to be able to remember them. So initially it was working very well. However, now it is not working as well because my brain, for some reason, I just don't feel connected to writing stories. So however you're learning, this is a big theme in all the videos, all the podcasts, everything I ever talk about. You have to feel connected to this. You have to be studying the language in a way where you feel connected to it, excited by it, engaged. It's something you actually look forward to doing. And if you're not feeling that way, let's just start there. The neural connections you make to the language and the things that you're learning, they're not going to be as deep, and it's going to take you a heck of a lot longer to actually learn that language. Another element to these neural connections, or another thing that can help you make these neural connections, I guess you could say, is the level of challenge. You see, if you're studying a language and the resources you are using or the way you're studying the language is not too challenging for you and it is reasonably easy, The problem is that you're only going to be learning at a certain depth. You're only going to make a certain level, the strength of connections you make to the language is not going to be all that strong. So I'll give you an example here. It's like me right now in Mandarin, okay? In Mandarin, I am currently taking a class at the university in my city, which is in Calgary. By the way, it is freezing. We're still in this deep freeze in Calgary right now. It's really not fun. Anyway, so I'm taking a Mandarin class because I'm doing a major. I'm doing a second degree in East Asian Language Studies at the university. This class that I am taking is pretty much below my level. There are some things that are new, but I would say in this class, I probably know something in the range of 70% plus of the things that we are learning. And so because I know 70% of what we're doing, my brain actually disengages to an extent from the class. When we're learning things, I'll be like, oh, I know that. Oh, yeah, that's not super new. Or, oh, that's not that hard. And while obviously there are new things that I'm learning, no doubt about it, there are new things, but the new things I'm learning are in the minority. It's not the majority. So my brain doesn't have to focus very much to learn. As a result, I'm not making as deep of neural connections as I could to that language. So you have to think about how you're studying. Is it challenging you or not really? If it's challenging you, fantastic, that you are on the right path. If not, you might need to start making some changes and changing your strategy up a little bit. Now, a small caveat, a small thing we should mention, when you're learning another language, there absolutely is value in using strategies that are slightly below your level. But it's not going to be the thing that really accelerates your progress. Instead, when you're using those strategies that are a little bit below your level, what it's doing is it's number one, it's a confidence booster. Because you remember, oh yeah, I used to struggle with this stuff and now I don't. Yes, go me. Or it also will be a good refresher. Often you're going through these things and you're like, oh yeah, I know this, but I haven't seen this in a while, or I haven't thought about this, or maybe you only understood the concept at a certain level, like you kind of got it, but not 100%. And taking the easier class or the easier strategy or textbook or online program or whatever, it just helps reinforce some stuff that's in your brain. So don't get me wrong, picking strategies that are slightly below your level is not a bad thing at all. It's actually very, very useful. There's a lot of value to it, blah, 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 blah. But at the end of the day, if we're talking strictly about those neural connections, right, I actually think there's probably value in having both strategies simultaneously. On one hand, you're doing things that are slightly too easy for you or slightly below your level, and at the same time, you're doing things that are challenging you. So you kind of have both ends. You have stuff that's pushing you, and you have stuff that's allowing you to build your confidence and review and build upon concepts that are already in your mind. I think another thing when it comes to these neural connections is studying and practicing and doing things and trying to learn the language in a way where you are engaging various different senses. So let me give you an example. Let's say this is a notebook, okay? Let's look at this guy. Let's pretend this is a notebook. Obviously isn't, but let's pretend it is. And let's say the primary way that you're learning is only by taking notes. Hello, I am taking notes. Smiley face. Let's say this is all you do. You take notes. That is your primary way of learning whatever language, okay? That is engaging your fingers, obviously, a little bit on the eyes, but that's essentially it. That's basically all that you're using. Versus, for example, if we look at, today is Wednesday, so on Monday evening, I hosted an event I co-hosted an event for Spanish learners in the city, where we went to a restaurant. The restaurant owner was there, and the restaurant owner did a cooking lesson for everybody who came, but she did it entirely in Spanish. Most of the people there, everybody except for one, were essentially beginners or maybe intermediate speakers. But again, when you're there, all of a sudden, you're in a different setting. You're not in the comfort of your home. So you're in a different physical setting. So that already is firing off different neurons. When you learn the word for stove, there is a big commercial stove in front of you. So that is a much better, it makes a much deeper connection in your brain than when you write on your notes, stove equals estufa in Spanish, for example. Right? Like if you just write that, right? It only goes so far. Even if you draw a stove, right? I don't know how to draw a stove. I don't know. I'm just gonna make this up. Here's our random stove with 4 plates, right? Even if you draw a stove underneath, what a stupid stove, right? What a dumb-looking stove. I can't draw for the life of me. I'm a really bad drawer, like the worst drawer in the world. Even if you draw a stove or find a picture, it still only goes so deep. But if you get to see it, you feel it, you touch it, you hear that, you smell the gas, you smell the food, you're engaging so many more senses. So you have to, it's going to help you so much if you find different ways to actually engage with that language in a live, real life way. Granted, that can be scary. It is scary if you're a beginner to go to a cooking class and you're like, what if I don't understand? What if it's hard? Granted, absolutely. So you might need to work your way up to it. You might need to, in the early stages, maybe in your notes, you're just putting pictures as well as writing descriptions. That's going to make an additional connection to just your notes. Maybe you have to watch videos of people, I don't know, cooking or whatever online, and you're looking at cooking videos and such. Maybe that's what you're doing. Maybe you have to build your way up. There's 1,000,001 ways to do it, but engage different senses when you're learning a language. You want to make it a whole 360 kind of approach, and that's going to make so many more neural connections. It's why I travel abroad, actually. I like to travel, first of all, but it helps me so much to travel abroad because I make so many connections that I wasn't making before. So that is a really, 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 really big thing when it comes to those neural connections in your brain. It matters like, oh, so much. The final thing I can say in terms of making neural connections is switching things up. Sometimes what tends to happen is you're learning whatever language you're learning, you're doing your thing, you're chipping away, you're blah, 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 you're doing your thing, right? And what happens is eventually things get stale. Things get boring. You've done it the same way over and over and over and over and over and over for X period of time. And when you change your strategy and you switch things up, it re-engages your brain and reconnects you to the language. It reminds me recently, there's a student I teach Spanish to, one of the only people I teach online currently. I don't teach a lot of online, I do mostly local in my city, but there's a lady I teach online, and for the longest time, we were taking Spanish lessons, and we had the same kind of system. We had the same things we did, it was kind of the same. And after a point, I was noticing that she wasn't improving very quickly anymore. Something was missing. I was like, she's paying me, we're taking these lessons, but her progress from going like this, right, started to go like this, right? So still improving, but so slowly. And I was like, hey, something has to give here. Something has to switch it up. So we did. We started to essentially... basically, I started to give her I was like, hey, we got to do a little bit more homework between classes. Do you have time for that? I will correct your homework in between classes. So that's increasing the intensity a little bit. She's like, oh, I'm going to have to do more homework. Okay, sounds good. More homework. That's a change. We started to incorporate more, I would say all different types of strategies. Reading, writing, speaking, listening. More different types of strategies compared to what we were doing before. So that was a change, right? There's a lot of things that we just kind of changed up. So now she's learning a lot faster, A, because the strategy actually makes a heck of a lot more sense, but B, an equal part of this whole thing is that there's been a change in the whole routine. We've broken the routine, which makes her brain focus more to try and figure out and get used to the new pattern. It's a human trait. It's a human trait that we can take advantage of to keep ourselves engaged. So for you, maybe it means you have to switch strategies every now and then. Maybe you have to take, I don't know, maybe you're taking classes and you have to, take some additional class with a different teacher. Maybe you have to switch programs you're using. Maybe you have to change when you study, where you study. Maybe you have to, who knows, there's 1,000,001 ways to do it. But switching up your routine will help tremendously as well. So anyway, guys, let me give you a couple of life updates. We can start there, and then we can wrap this whole video up. I have a funny story. Actually, I have one life update. It's a funny story for you. It's hilarious. I think it's hilarious anyway. I shared it on my Facebook yesterday as a little mini blog post. Now, so yesterday I had a presentation in my Mandarin class. A very simple presentation. I had to stand up in front of the class. We had 2 minutes to talk about our experience of learning Mandarin. Very simple, right? What's hard? What's easy? What do you like? What do you not like? Very, very simple. I was reasonably prepared. I knew the major things that are hard for me. I knew the major things that are easy. I knew my introduction. I wanted to say that I was a student and blah, blah, blah. I teach languages, this, that, the other thing. I had it pretty down pat. This is not a difficult kind of presentation for me given my Mandarin level. So she calls my name. Teacher goes, Azren, right? So that's my name in Chinese. So I was like, all right, here we go. Azren's turn. Stand up, walk in front of the class, stand, and I look at everyone, and I start, and my brain decided to go haywire and crazy. My brain's basically like, hey, Azren, you know all those things that you planned? You're not going to do any of those. You're going to go in a different direction. So my self-introduction goes completely poorly. I think I said, hi everyone, my name's Azren. I'm going to do a presentation about my experience learning Mandarin. So let's start here. You guys probably don't know, but my name's Azren. And then I was like, holy cow, I said my name's Azren. And I was like, oh wait, I already told you my name's Azren. You guys already know that. Oh, no. Huh. And I stood there like an idiot. Everyone's kind of looking at me. I was like, oh crap, this is not going well. And then I was like, okay, so there's some things that are hard about Mandarin and whatnot. And the first thing that's really hard, and I couldn't remember. My brain's like, what's hard about Mandarin? And I thought, what is hard about Mandarin? Oh no, what's hard? And so I was like, okay, let's just talk about a random thing. Let's make it up on the spot. So I was like, okay, dialectal differences are hard. The problem is I don't know how to say dialectal differences. And now I'm in this boat where I have to explain in Mandarin that I don't have the vocabulary to do, how there's different regional differences between Mandarin in this part of China, Taiwan, and this. And I was like, this is incredibly difficult. And I was like trying to fumble my way through this. It's not even something that really makes me, that challenges me, not crazily. But I had to talk about something, so I'm standing there. And so I end up, most of my presentation ends up about me going to Taiwan and buying a sandwich that has no tomatoes. So I'm sitting there going, yeah, I went to Taiwan. I said, no tomato, no tomato. I want a sandwich. By the way, I didn't want to say sandwich, so I just said sandwich with a Chinese accent. And I like tried to kind of guessed at it. And I was like, I hope that's what it is. I was like, I want a sandwich. No tomato. I don't want tomato. But they don't understand tomato. They don't know what a tomato is. I'm saying tomato. They're looking at me like, what's a tomato? And I thought, tomato? I think I know the word for tomato. I know tomato. Tomatoes, like, I don't like tomatoes. I don't want tomato. So I said tomato. And they're like, do you mean this tomato? And I was like, what's that tomato? And they're like, this tomato, tomato, red, green, blah, 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 tomato. And I was like, what? But isn't tomato 西红柿? They're like, no, fancy, tomato. And it was tomato this, tomato that, tomato. And I was like, and then my teacher puts her fingers up. It's like 2 minutes left. And I was like, oh. I was like, I'm gone. Or no, your 2 minutes are up. My time was up. And I was like, oh, my time's up. I've talked about tomatoes for 2 minutes. Ah! So I finished off by saying, what did I say at the end? I was like, oh yeah, pronunciation is easy. What else did I say? Talking is easy. And then I was like, and then I where this came from, who the hell knows? But then my brain's like, okay, so yes, studying Chinese is hard, but if you work hard, you will succeed. Thank you. And I was like, I went from tomato. My name is Azren. You don't know my name is Azren. My name is Azren. Oh crap, you do know my name is Azren. What the heck? Oh crap. Sandwich, whatever the hell I said for sandwich in Chinese accent. Oh, it was I don't know what mark I got. I don't know how that went, but it was a nightmare. Anyway, that's my funny story to wrap this video up. Thank you. I appreciate your attention. Hit the like button or dislike if you didn't like it. Give me some feedback either way, like, dislike, leave a comment, let me know. Had fun making this video. We'll chat next time. See you guys. Bye.